Hello, this is Danny, and today we are going to talk about Tiny Redstone. Tiny Redstone is a forge mod for Minecraft that adds many tiny redstone pieces that you can put together on redstone panels to form tiny, compact redstone circuits. These circuits can be copied onto blueprints, shared inside and outside of your Minecraft world. They can be picked up, moved, rotated, linked with other panels, and you can even dye them to match your build. So when you have Tiny Redstone installed, you will notice that you have lots of tiny redstone pieces, along with a redstone panel, a redstone wrench, and a couple of crafting ingredients. You can use these to put together circuits on these panels that work very similarly to vanilla redstone, except that they're really, really tiny. And there are a couple of enhancements. So what we're going to do in this video is first we're going to take a look at several examples of circuits, and then we're going to take a look at all of the different items and what you can do with them. And then we're going to assemble a simple circuit together. And then finally we're going to talk about blueprints and how we can save and copy circuits and share them between worlds and with other players. So let's get started. Of course, as you can see, we can dye these. We can take any color dye of just regular Minecraft dye and right click on the circuit and it will change colors and it will retain that color if we pick it up or whatever. All of the stuff is retained when you pick it up. As you can see, I do have one in my hand here that has all of its circuitry on it. That's actually a feature I just added today, which I'm pretty excited about. But basically here we have an example of a circuit that is basically a clock circuit that we can turn on and off. It has an edge detector, and then it has a piston that basically pushes a block to complete the circuit. So this is something you can do in vanilla redstone, and it works exactly the same way that it would in vanilla redstone. With one exception, as you can see, our repeaters have a very long delay, and that is because these are super repeaters, which allow us to go beyond the normal 4-tick repeaters. And then we also have the regular repeater here too. We're going to take a closer look at all those different components in a bit, but I just kind of wanted to show you a quick example of one thing we can do. Turn this off, those pistons come back, and you can hear the little piston noise, and actually the lever makes noise too, a little tick. And then over here we have actually what you could probably call a piston tape. So here we've got some transparent blocks that don't transfer redstone signals, and then we have some solid blocks that do. And if we set up put a little tiny lever on here and just turn that on and off real quick, you can see that we have a piston tape that is also going to open and close this because that redstone lamp is outputting redstone. All right, let's get rid of that. So I just wanted to show you that. Actually, I'm going to pick that up so that we don't have to listen to that. Inside, I have a couple of interesting examples too. So here we have an example of a tiny comparator that is reading the inventory in this chest, and it is outputting a redstone signal based on how much stuff is in the chest because it's a comparator, and that's what comparators do. Now, comparators act just like vanilla comparators. Our tiny redstone dust does act almost exactly like vanilla redstone, but it has a few enhancements, which we'll get into later, and you can see that they are powering these lamps. So like if we were to remove some stuff from here, or actually it would be easier for us to add stuff. Let's just add like a stack in there. You can see that we got more lighting there. Hooray! So here is a dark room with some circuits in it that have redstone lamps, just to demonstrate how these work. The redstone lamps output a small amount of light, and they are cumulative. So here I've got a crank from supplementaries, and we have our redstone line coming in here. This is actually the exact same circuit that I have out here. It's using a comparator. In this case, it doesn't really need a comparator, but I just copied the circuit and brought it out here. And as we can see, as we turn that crank, more light turns on and the room gets brighter. Oh, and then it gets dark. Look at that. Okay, so then here I've got another little lighting circuit. Basically all this one does, it has a little lever on it. And I hit it with the wrench, which made it rotate, which is not what I intended to do. So when we click on this, it's going to turn the lights and the room will brighten gradually. Look at that. So you can have dimmer switches and you can have like lighting effects. And then as we turn it off, it's going to shut off gradually. And of course, all this circuit is doing is it's powering these redstone lamps and it's going through repeaters to give it a delay. All these repeaters are set to a 4-tick delay. So let's take a closer look at these components that we can put on our panels. So this is all the items in the mod. Here you can see we have a panel. It's on this pedestal from Supplementaries, and it does render all of its stuff, even when it's on a pedestal. But essentially, of course, we first want to make our redstone panel. And the redstone panel, like most of the items in Tiny Redstone, does require silicon. The crafting ingredient is just smooth stone, silicon, and redstone. You will see that all the tiny components also require silicon. Now, this is OR-addicted with silicon from other mods. So like if you happen to have Refined Storage or Ender IO, you can use their silicon for this, and vice versa. This silicon is made from the silicon compound in a blast furnace or a centrifuge. Oh, okay, a silicon comb. Okay. So as you can see, it does play well with other mods. So like in this case, we have productive bees installed, so you can get the silicon from a silicon comb. And then to make the silicon compound, it's nether quartz, charcoal, and sand gets you 2 silicon compounds. If you're playing a pack with other silicons, this gives you another alternative to making silicon. It's probably fairly similar in balance, but it's a nice alternative to some of the other methods. You can see we do have the blueprints, which we're going to take a look at later. We have tiny observers, which act just like vanilla observers, almost identically. In fact, our little circuit that we had out here with the piston tape on it is using observers. That's how this observer is noticing that this block changed. So it triggers this piston. And that's basically how piston tapes work these days. And then we have a tiny redstone block, which outputs redstone as you would expect. We have a tiny solid block. Now, tiny solid blocks, like in vanilla, they do transfer redstone. They transfer weak redstone signals. And then we have the transparent block, which does not carry signals. We have a redstone lamp, which we saw demonstrated in there. Redstone-wise, it acts just like the solid block, except that it lights up. We have pistons and sticky pistons, which act exactly how you would expect them to. There is one exception in that if a piston cannot push a block, for instance, if we have a piston on here, pistons cannot push redstone. Now, normally in vanilla Minecraft, that would cause it to pop. In this case, it does not. It just doesn't extend. So that is one extension. You don't have to worry about pistons pushing things off of these panels. If we remove that, then the piston will extend. So that's how those work. And then, of course, the sticky piston will pull blocks back. And they do push up to 12 blocks. And you may wonder, well, how can it push 12 blocks when you only have an 8x8 grid here? Well, that is because we can link these panels together. So just by placing multiple panels next to each other, they are basically linked at that point. It'll push all those blocks. We have the tiny buttons. They work just like vanilla buttons. I know they're terribly ugly. I'm going to work on making them better, but the wooden button will output a redstone signal for 15 redstone ticks, and the stone one will do for 10 redstone ticks, just like vanilla. And then we have the tiny torches, which are completely adorable. I don't know, am I weird? And then we have the repeater and then the super repeater, which is essentially the difference between these two is that a repeater acts just like a vanilla repeater in that when you right click on it, it will go up to 4 redstone ticks. When you right click it again, it goes back to 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. The super repeater, do I have any of those? Here we go. The super repeater, when you right click on it, first of all, you can see it has kind of a metallic texture, and then it has those stripes. And when you right-click on this, you get a GUI, and you can actually have a delay up to 10 seconds. So 100 redstone ticks. That's 200 game ticks, 100 redstone ticks, because each redstone tick is 2 game ticks. So that'll give you longer delays, and this helps make up for the fact that we don't have like hoppers or things like that, so we can't do hopper clocks. Comparators act pretty much exactly like vanilla comparators in that they will, as we saw in the castle, which is from Valhalsia structures, by the way, we saw that it will read comparator outputs from inventories and other such things. And it will also change weak inputs into strong outputs. And it will also, if you right click on it, it will also go into subtract mode. And then the tiny levers, of course, we already saw those in action. They're just little itty bitty levers. You click on them, they make a cute little noise, and then they output redstone. Oh, this has a delay. That's what's going on here. Here, let's... There we go. So 10 seconds later, that turns on. Here, let's demonstrate it on this repeater. So it will output redstone in all directions. And then, of course, the redstone dust, you can see, will, when you place it, it forms a line, and it connects in the front and the back, but you can right-click on each side to choose which way you want it to go. So, like, you can have your circuits really compact because you can do things like this, where you have redstone running next to itself or whatever. That will only connect wherever you want it to connect. Oops. If you right click in the middle, it'll just do all, it'll toggle them all on and off. Let's assemble a circuit. Let's just do something simple like an RS latch. So let's place this guy in the world and do a couple of buttons. Maybe let's just do stone buttons. We'll put one stone button here, and maybe one there, and then we'll have this guy output. Well, okay, so first we'll do the RS latch, which is basically just two redstone torches feeding into each other. So we'll take our tiny redstone torch, and we will output it to that line, but we'll have it take an input from this one, and then we'll do the same thing over here. So basically what we've got is a NOT gate feeding a NOT gate, and that can be toggled with any type of redstone input. So right now, oh, actually, this is on the wrong side. So we're going to close that, and we're going to open that up. And now if we want to switch to this side, all we do is press this button, and it switches to that side. Switch to this side, press that button, and it switches to that side. So we could use this for something like toggling a power system on and off. Let's say instead of buttons here, we have comparators. And of course, you can have multiple comparators on one side of your panel. So you could have a power cell or some kind of an inventory and have two or multiple comparators reading from that same inventory, and maybe some of them are in subtract mode and are behaving differently. Some of them are going to NOT gates, and you can really control when you want the redstone signal to be on or off. So let's say this might be powering, let's just do a vanilla redstone lamp. And so when we press this button, the lamp turns off. When we press this button, the lamp turns on. So that's basically how that works. So as you can see, we get a preview of where the stuff is going to place, so we know exactly what's going to happen there. And for the most part, you're going to find that this mod tries very hard to replicate vanilla style, although it is two-dimensional. Like, we can't put things on top of other things yet. That may come in a future update. We'll talk a little bit about future plans. But first, let's take a look at the blueprint system. So here's a blueprint that's crafted like so. It's just a piece of paper and a tiny redstone dust. And we can use that to copy a circuit. So I right-clicked on that circuit, and I now have a blueprint that has those components. Actually, let me turn, just so that we can see what this is really going to look like. Let's turn off advanced tooltips. So when we hover over this, we can see that this blueprint requires the following: tiny redstone torch 2, tiny redstone dust 12, and tiny stone button 2. So it picked up all those components. So if we want to put this on another panel, we have to make sure that we have all of those things in our inventory. And if you watch my inventory, actually, let's make sure all those things are in my hotbar. Nope, not the torches. Okay. So actually, let's just do this just to show that if I don't have what I need and I right click on that, it's not going to work. Unless I'm in creative mode. If I'm in creative mode, it'll work just fine. And then also, I guess just to demonstrate it's that we can actually have things in different stacks. It'll pull everything it needs and it'll put it on that board. So of course, being able to copy things in world is amazing. What's really amazing is that we can copy them outside of our world too. So if you right click in the air with your blueprint, you get an export button, which you can then use to save your blueprint on your hard drive. So I can call this, what did we make? We made an RS latch. I save that. That is now on my computer. So I can take an empty blueprint now. And by the way, you can empty a blueprint by just putting it in your crafting grid, and that'll get you an empty blueprint and unlock a recipe in this case. So now if we right click an empty one in the air, then we get an import button instead of an export button. And when we click that, we get an open file dialog. So let's say I want to open this one. It's called screenshot piston tape. So this is actually a piston tape. It's the same one that we had out here that I used in my screenshot for this mod. So we can right click. We can't place it because we don't have all the required components. I'm just going to demonstrate. I'm going to go into creative just to show you that we can just right click on it when we're in creative and it'll just place everything for us. One feature that I do want to add in the future is that it's going to show a ghost image of that when we hover over the plate. That may be coming in the future. But here is that piston tape. It's actually the same one that we had over here that we saw in the beginning of the episode. So you can share these online. Hopefully someday you'll be able to find some common things. I'll probably post some myself. Maybe on the wiki for this mod, you'll be able to find a few common redstone circuits that we would use, things like AND gates, RS latches, and just kind of fun stuff. So that is Tiny Redstone as it stands today. Now I do have some plans coming. One of those plans is covers, so that we can cover up our circuits. And the idea is that it's basically going to look kind of like maybe a console or something like that. What'll happen with the cover is that the outputs will all behave exactly as they do now. It just won't render the circuit. So that may help a little bit with performance and also just kind of hiding your circuitry so you don't accidentally, break things. Although you can only remove, I actually didn't mention this, you can remove items by left clicking while you have a component in your hand or while you have the redstone wrench. And also, you can rotate with the redstone wrench. Oh, and if you want to pick up a circuit, you can break it with your hand, and it will drop as a completed circuit. It's a little faster if you use a pickaxe. It's even faster if you shift right click with the wrench. And it will pick it up, and as you can see, it has its circuit completely intact. And I'm considering having two different types of covers. One that allows light to be rendered, so like we had in our little storage room over there. So those would output light, and then one that doesn't allow light to output. So like the one that allows light to output is probably going to look kind of like an opaque light dome or something like that, where the one that doesn't allow it is probably going to look more like a console box or something to that effect. A few other features I am considering is a magnifying glass so that you can kind of zoom in on the circuit. And also, now this one we may not see for a long time, but I'm also toying around with the idea of allowing 3D space so that you can place things on top of other things. That is not possible right now. This is two-dimensional. Adding a third dimension is going to increase the complexity significantly. Ooh, also vertical placement. I want to be able to place the circuits on the walls and ceilings. And of course, if you have any ideas for features, definitely feel free to leave them in the comment section or open a feature request on the issue tracker, which you can find on the CurseForge page of the mod, which is linked in the description. So if you have any questions, comments, ideas, or whatever, definitely feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And if you did enjoy this, and if you're as excited about this mod as I am, please feel free to click the like button. And thanks for watching.